I was a little, I guess I was a little not quite clear why the disagreement between myself. I had taken, I was thinking to myself, great, he covered a lot of things that I would have liked to have covered if I had had the time. Meaning that what has to happen now are massive increases in savings, a massive cut in consumption, massive cuts in bank lending to get bank balance sheets back together, like you're getting household balance sheets back together. If this is going to happen, we've already seen that even in the period of this massive stimulus, we've had no investment, just about no investment. So how are we, under these conditions of contracting world demand of a sort that, we really haven't seen in our, since the 30s? How are we going to get any sort of investment? On the contrary, the corporations have been living on borrowed time, and indeed they haven't even tried to invest. They've been financializing, so to speak, to try to survive in this environment. So I find it what was said there extremely coherent with what I was trying to say about the way in which this business cycle has developed, its weakness, and its dependence on the bubble, which made for the growth of borrowing, etc. And that's all gone. What?
And because of opportunity.
And you have that other aspect. You have old-fashioned Keynesianism as well as sort of active market Keynesianism. So it seems to me you're going to just have this absolutely massive hit to demand that really, I think they really have a couple options. I mean, this is very schematic and very Marxist in a kind of too schematic way, which is to say that I think either they've got to, which they're going to have very hard time doing, let this take its, quote, natural course, destroy all these values that really had no basis because they were not based on the capacity to have accumulation make profit. They have to let that happen, in which case we're all in for a very difficult period and much longer period of recession, if you want to use the word, which I tend to think is what was going to happen. Last year I was here, people asked me, is there going to be I think it's going to get really bad, is there going to be a real crisis? And they all said Marxists shouldn't say there should. I thought there should. There has to be. And I do think there's going to have to be something unlike what we've seen since the 30s, or they will have to try to do a Japanese-style solution. Massive deficits in money supply, which would at best keep the thing turned over, but without any solution. I mean, without any end, a kind of stagnation without end. I really haven't thought it through well enough. Two things I haven't well thought it through enough either to know which of these is going to happen, or even to what extent the Japanese option is available. The thing that the Japanese had in their favor was they had no foreign debt. But here, there's world debt that the U.S. is totally indebted on a world scale, and they're going to have to be able to kind of work with these debtors if they want to keep the kind of stability that the Japanese were able to. I probably should stop there. Just one thing. I'll just make one comment on China. I think there's no doubt whatsoever in my mind that over any longer run you're going to have an absolute massive continuation of massive industrialization in China. But I think what I have felt, and I think, I mean, not the original with me in any way, but I think most of the people that, most people really saw what was going on with China, understood its deep imbrication in this bubblenomics, understood the centrality of massive demand, meaning massive growth of debt in the United States and in Europe, which allowed China to run these huge current account surpluses, which means they had money to spend on a big scale in buying third world raw materials and in buying Japanese and Korean and Taiwanese capital goods and so forth. And so China was, as the economists love to say, this gigantic motor of the world economy. But it really wasn't. The real motor of the world economy, I would insist, has been the United States and these bubbles. That's over. It doesn't mean that China is over, but it means that China cannot, as it were, to use a term I never use but other people do, it cannot have the same kind of accumulation regime it's had up to now, which has been based precisely on keeping its currency down in order to allow the U.S. to have and to finance U.S. current account deficits, to allow the U.S. to continue to borrow, drive its economy. That's over. And China will probably do well after this is all over, but it's going to be quite a while until this is all over. Thank you. John?
So first, a short comment on what you said, well,